Good evening. Meeting for the Winthrop Town Council for May 6, 2014 is now called to order. You all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Sanford, would you lead?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gotcha. The minutes for April 15th, 2014 as circulated. Could I have a motion? Motion by Councilor Lettieri, seconded by Councilor Sanford. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Tonight, although they're not here, I would like to take a moment to recognize Detective Callanan and Lieutenant Perrin, and I'll just read the citations for them. Be it known to all that the Winthrop Town Council hereby offers its appreciation to Detective Callanan and to Lieutenant Perrin in recognition of their involvement on 4/19/2013 with the manhunt, search, and capture of the Boston Marathon bombing suspect. On behalf of the citizens of the town of Winthrop, we express our most sincere gratitude to Detective Callanan and offer best wishes in his future endeavors. Thank you to Brian and Tim, who did go over to Watertown and served in the help with the search. On a lighter note, Richard Honan participated in the Winthrop Art Association Art Festival last week, and the council president, and actually the council president's wife, because the council president is not very art-oriented, she made the decision, along with my guidance, of course, that Richard received the town council award for that night. So congratulations to Richie. He had a photograph there that beautifully, if any of you watches his stuff around town, he has beautiful, beautiful photographs. But one of them looks out, actually from near my house, over toward the water tower in Deer Island, across the harbor there. It was a beautiful, beautiful picture. So congratulations and thank you to Richie, to Tim, and to Brian. Excuse me. Tonight we have Massport here. Mike Vadalaro and his team are going to make a presentation regarding the runway safety area that they are developing over at Logan. Mike?
Jose Massport.
Okay. Jose is going to lead.
Good evening, President Gill, and good evening, council
Good evening,
members,
Jose.
and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jose Massport. I'm Director of Community Relations for Massport. And as President Gill mentioned, our team today will be making a presentation, a short presentation, because we know there are other agenda items that you want to address, and I in particular want to make sure that I'm out in time so I can address one particular agenda item, which is a Bruins game that's taking place around 7:30 or so.
Thank you for your presentation.
So in any case, very quickly, the agenda that we will be talking about is a project known as a runway safety area. It's a project taking place in runway 15L and 33R. I want to take this moment also to welcome officially, although he's been with us for several months now, Mike Vadalaro, who's joined our team as a community representative, or community relations representative, and obviously one of the areas he's representing is Winthrop. So one of your neighbors and community members is now a member of our team, and we're very happy to have him working with us and making sure that we pay attention in the right way to your community. That being said, I'm going to ask Flavio Leo from Massport to actually address the issues with regards to this project and to answer any questions you may have, and also the audience may have some questions as well. So I want to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Good evening. As Jose mentioned, my name is Flavio Leo. I'm Deputy Director of Aviation Planning for the Authority. And I have used a couple of boards. I hope folks can see them. I'll try to stay out of your way. To quickly explain the project, just to give you some background, the FAA is under a congressional mandate to improve what are called runway safety areas across the country at the nation's major airports. Our runway safety area is basically, I'm sorry. Are you okay?
No, can they see over me?
Actually, if you go that way a little, it might be even better. And you can tilt it that way, we can see. Mike, can you get that all right?
Okay?
Yeah, you can even tilt the boat to the camera's fine. That's good. There you go.
Thank you for that, Director. So the runway safety areas are basically geometric zones around the runway that are used to basically provide a safety buffer. So when you think of a runway safety area, kind of a shoulder on the road. It's there for safety, it's there in case there is an excursion, but it's not there to be used as part of the runway itself. It is not an operational part of the runway. It does not lead to basically the performance of that runway. It's purely a safety feature around the runway. It's on both ends and on the sides. So the congressional mandate required the FAA to complete the safety area upgrades at all the nation's major airports by 2015. And we've been working on this at Logan for several years now. We actually were here a couple of years ago before this council. They did a presentation on a much more significant runway safety area project, which is our major runway 33L. As you recall, that project required several years of construction. It involved a deck into the harbor. It involved actually a closure of the main runway for several months at a time, for 2 years. It was a significant project. We got that completed, and now it's operational. We're now moving to the baby 15 wheelie. It's a small runway. It's about 2,500 feet. And what we need to do to meet the requirement is to one end of the runway 15L is too short. The runway safety area is too short for that runway. There is room on this side, on the 33R side, so we are shifting the runway 200 feet to meet the FAA requirement for this runway. And just to give you some context, this is Logan Airport, this is the town of Winthrop. We're somewhere in the middle here tonight, and this is the runway, the shorter runway, this is the main runway, the east to west runway, and then we have the major north-south parallels. That kind of gives you the context of this project. So now to zoom in, let's zoom in to the project itself. So this is what the project involves. On this end of the runway, we meet the standard on the 33R end. Winthrop is here. So kind of off the charts here, but we need to focus in. So this end of the runway meets the standard, the FAA standard. This end of the runway does not. So what we're doing is taking this runway basically and shifting it 200 feet to open up space on this end to meet the FAA standard of 300 feet of runway safety area. The project will be it's a very small project. It's all on the footprint of the airport. There is no involvement in terms of the water, other than being close to the buffer zone. It's all on airport project. It's about a month and a half's worth of work. Minimal, if not existent, in terms of nighttime, and we expect very minimal operational impacts on the airport. This runway and in the westerly facing runways are typically used in the winter and spring months. This will be done in the summer months, so it's not going to operationally impact in terms of the runway use patterns at the airport. That pretty much concludes my presentation in terms of the projects. I'd be happy to take questions.
Any questions from the audience? Chief?
It's going to be nighttime work, did you say?
No, we expect very minimal nighttime work. Like I said, the project is pretty much contained on the airfield, and we're looking to basically avoid nighttime work altogether. We can't categorically say no because we don't know we're going to run into much construction, but we feel very comfortable that this will be mostly daytime work.
In the event there is nighttime work, what advance notices will we get? How far out will we get? The concern is noise carries at night.
Yes.
And on that area, I believe it's Court Road area, we get the potty boats coming in while in beyond Court Road. If we have constant construction at night, especially the overnight, is a concern for that neighborhood.
It's a great question, and we're very, very sensitive to that. We are well aware, our construction folks are well aware of the sensitivity, particularly when we're working with this board up. Particularly when we're working on the north side of the airport. We know that, we're very careful, we have very strict requirements in terms of using flags instead of backup beepers. We have very strict requirements on lighting and how the lighting has to face, and we very much know that this area is very sensitive to the town. Thank you for that.
Chief, I just want to let you know, we sent a letter to the abutters on Court Road, that said there may be some nighttime work. It's 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, however, there could be some, so I will notify, if we hear anything, I will let them know, I'll let you know, and we'll
You
go
put it on our Facebook pages and stuff like that.
Yeah, you'll have,
Any notifications from the fire department is,
you can probably let us know.
Right, at most, we have 2 nights phased for the whole project, that's the worst case scenario.
well, I know since Mike has come on, the communication back and forth with my office has been tremendous, so we appreciate that. And hopefully this is a new start to greater things to happen for the relationship that we have. What type of construction equipment are you talking about, and what type of construction is going to go on?
I have Sarah Danishuk from our construction folks, she can mention that.
Are you looking locally or just at nighttime?
Well, globally, just so we know what the impact are.
Okay, the bulk of the work is down at this end, so you're gonna may see truck traffic out there with some excavators, and they're gonna be hauling the, dirt off-site. We have no more room at Governor's Island, so we'll be off-site, all on highways, nothing city of Boston streets. And then once they come in, we're gonna be paving and putting in crushed aggregate base course. Again, it's a very short-term project, there isn't a lot of materials coming in. You're gonna see people maybe working more than truck traffic, but more excavators, dozers, and some pavers.
Is there no pile driving, grinding, or overhauling, some major noise?
No, and anything that would create noises during the day. Work hours are 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. In the event they do have to perform work on weekends, we would not allow them to start until at least 8 a.m.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the audience? Tony? Just identify with name and precinct, Tony. Formality.
Precinct 3, Airport Houses, the chairman. As I remember going through the Court Road, there's a sound monitor on a little landing there.
Here on Court Road?
Somewhere over there.
Yes, right about here. Yes, there is.
Is there any way we could monitor that online? You could give us the daily decibels?
During their construction?
Pardon me?
During their construction?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could,
I was 7 until the project's done.
we could definitely have our noise office download the data and provide it to you if you're interested in that area.
I'd be very interested. Thank you.
Dick?
Michael?
Does this require a public hearing now?
Just for the record, Dan, you have to give name and
Dick
precinct.
James, precinct 5. Will this require a public hearing to satisfy, it's a change of the runway, essentially, even though it's a riprap going in at the end, do you have to have a public hearing on this? Other than tonight?
This is a safety project, I know that.
Understand that.
I know that.
Public hearing required, that's all I'm asking.
We're not doing a public hearing other than this, and I know we've gone before the Conservation Commission, and Stuart Delzell is here from our environmental office who's there.
Any, Tony?
I forgot this question. For construction, there's stormwater runoff situations. You have stormwater pollution prevention plan. Do you have changes in the plan to address runoff from the runway during construction? Will you be putting up the fill bays and plastic and all that stuff?
Sarah, that's standard
It
mitigation
is
that we do.
standard, the contractor has to submit their own notice of intent, and we will inspect
Okay.
any erosion before the board will inspect.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the audience?
When they finish the presentation, I have a question, Mr. President.
Okay, any questions from the council?
Yeah, just,
Yes.
is there going to be actual construction going on both sides of the runway, on either end?
I doubt it, because we need to phase this. Are we gonna do both ends of the run? Go ahead, Sarah, you.
Sorry. At the same time, there is a potential, just because this is a driving factor, it's gonna take 40 days to do it. This end is probably gonna take a week. To expedite it, we told the contractor to work both ends concurrently. The contractor does have experience working out on the airfield, they've worked on several projects before, and they know the sensitivity of the
But I just want to underscore that the project, thank you, Sarah, the project is being phased so that we're not impacting the operations on the major parallels. So we don't expect any changes to the runway use patterns that we particularly experience in the summer months, which typically is a southwestern.
Council, questions?
I had one.
Yes, Council.
I know you said that at the very beginning. Where are you expanding? It looks like you've already,
There's no expansion, it's basically a shift of the runway.
Oh,
So what
just-
we're
it's a
doing is
shift.
we- yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
We're taking this runway, there's already paved areas here.
Uh-huh.
And we're basically, and there's already, there's a room on this side
Mm-hmm.
because we have a grass area. We're just gonna shift this entire thing 200 feet. There's no
Oh,
change
that
to,
way.
no change
Okay.
to the runway length. The runway length stays at 2,557 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Mayo?
The only difference is it comes 200 feet closer to Winthrop, and if I'm not wrong, that's Cape Air's runway.
This is
So-
primarily the correct use that is here because of the aircraft size.
Yeah, and I believe that Cape Air is the most active airline in your stable over there, so it, I mean, I know it's smaller planes, but it's a lot of them, so I believe they fly more flights in and out of Logan on a daily basis, or annual basis, ups and downs, I may be wrong, but I think I'm pretty close.
They're a significant user, but they're not the biggest user. But there's,
But at that runway, they certainly are.
oh, yeah, certainly, yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Here's what bothered me about it. I thought you came into Concon and showed up, and I didn't think that there was going to be any discussion with the town. And I think that as a partner, and we are a partner, that we deserve a little more love, okay? And quite frankly, I'll extend that to something that's on our agenda tonight that you guys won't be here for, and that has to do with the airport health study. Now, I understand that that airport health study was a peer-reviewed study, and I think it was supposed to come out a year ago. And we have tremendous health issues in town, and I think that I'm not getting a sense of transparency about that study. And quite frankly, I know that we're not able to sue a public agency such as yourself, but speaking on behalf of the individuals and citizens in the town, I think it's time. You guys have been sitting on that for a long period of time, and we have some, concerns, and it doesn't look good right now that it's not out.
I'd like to clarify that.
Go ahead.
The public health study is a Department of Public Health study. The Department of Public Health is doing it. DPH. It's independent. We've provided information when they've asked us for it, but if you can imagine, they're the professionals, and they're doing the study, so we are deferring to them in terms of the release, and when they're completing the study, they're doing extensive peer review, and it is not us doing the study, it is the Department of Public Health doing the study. I just wanted to clarify that.
Can I just comment? The understanding that I think many people in Winthrop had is that study, am I wrong, that study was completed and it was sitting in your hands. So let me finish, okay? I understand you want to make a comment on it. If I'm wrong about it, I accept that. I'm not the brightest candle on the tree. I make mistakes like anybody else does, but I'm only telling you what the general perception is that there's a health study out there, and it's being sat on by Massport, and, we're looking at a situation where we're concerned about that. We are, I think, the biggest benefactors of the health issues from the airport.
President Gill, if I can address that very quickly?
Yeah, I'd like to focus on the runway.
Sure, and this will be 30 seconds. So as Flavia stated, it's not our study, so we don't have anything to sit on because it's not in our office, we didn't produce it, we didn't conduct it. We basically responded to a request from Speaker of the House President, DeLeo, which basically said, we're going to fund a study which is going to be conducted by the Department of Public Health with regards to health issues surrounding the airport. So we're not sitting on anything because we don't have anything to sit on, nor do we have influence on the Department of Public Health to sit on or release or whatever. We're waiting for that item to come out, and when it comes out, we'll be more than happy to, be part of the conversation and share it as well. So if this is a moment that we can sort of inform us in the sense that it's not our study, then we'll embrace this moment as far as letting the public know it's not our
You
study.
look like an honest guy, you got a hell of a tie.
Well, thank you.
How am I not gonna?
Well, you've got my favorite color on, so we're at the same thing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Don't be patronizing.
Before we conclude it, go ahead,
Just
John.
one quick, John Vitegliano, 19 Seymour Street. I'm a member of the Winthrop Airport Hazard Committee.
Precinct 5. Precinct 5, I'm sorry, Mr. Sorry, Chairman Gill. President Gill, I'm sorry. At the Winthrop Conservation Commission hearing that I attended, that you did too, thank you for that, a few weeks ago, the issue that Councilman Mayo just brought up, which has to do with the Cape Air flight, utilizing the short runway that you just seen a presentation on right now. There's no real issue, at least in my opinion, with respect to the proposed, runway, modification. I think it's going to be environmentally neutral on its own terms. The real issue, though, at hand has to do with the use of it by the Cape Air flights and other flights like it. Look, I live on Seymour Street, which should be directly, to the side of the flight paths into and out of that runway. And there are frequent occasions in my backyard when I've seen those Cape Air flights on takeoff doing a very, strong left bag and full power and at a very low altitude. I'm saying to myself, there's an engine failure, and in that flight mode, it could be a very serious situation. So, in one of the commitments that was made at that Conservation Commission, meeting, that Massport was going to look into the Cape Air, issue, just to, look into its history of flight tracks off of the small runway that's under consideration right now. And I'd like to know how we're doing on that.
Well, that's a good question. First of all, we've been working because of the urgency of from the Hazards Committee. We received this request a while ago as well. We have been working with Cape Air's chief pilots over the last year to try to minimize turns over the body of Winthrop here, because what happens is they're a slow and a non-jet aircraft, and the air traffic control wants to get them out of the way because of the larger jets. And when aircraft are flying in the air, they create wake, like a big boat in water, and they tend to disrupt the airflow, so the FAA needs to maintain separation at all times. What we've been working with the chief pilots, I think pretty successfully, is when they're making those turns that you mentioned, John, that they try to look for compatible land use. So, for example, that they stay longer and maybe go over Belle Isle, or to take a sharp turn and try to head over this area over the MWRA, but obviously there are situations when they can't avoid it, and so it's not foolproof. But I can say we have looked at some tracks, and we'll share them with the Hazards Committee, with some flight tracks, and depending on the runway use, they've actually been doing a pretty good job with that.
Council Sanford?
I grew up in the days of Sky King. I don't know if anybody remembers. Basically, I live a precinct 5 councilman, and my house is right there. And last year probably saw more of issues with the Cape Air flights and buzzing over the town and taking evasive kind of maneuvers, it seemed. So I think that's something you really need to look into for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also it's nice to have Mike Batalaro on board. We know where he lives.
Bob, did you have something?
Well, you're going to bring this other subject up later, so I'll bring it up.
Okay. The conclusion of this presentation is I would like to welcome Mike on as our representative, being a lifelong with the president, I believe.
Yeah, thank you.
And with his experience with the speaker and now our representative at Massport, we're expecting big things. We appreciate the green tie for St. Patrick's Day.
Lucky tie, I wear it.
And welcome aboard, Mike. And
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
We'll keep in touch.
And I appreciate it. Thank you.
If there are no further questions on that issue, then we'll move on. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
President, before the...
Oh, yes, Mr. Banks.
I have four people here. Two questions. Number one, has a recent change, question's been asked to me, on a much greater use of the evening of 1533 and 927, or has it just been because of the wind glitch? I was asked that in the evening especially.
Overnight or late night?
Yeah, in the evening. It seems to be a lot of activity on 1533, the big one.
Well, recently, and even today, we're basically on a strong northwest wind.
Probably the wind will
We've been, today, we're actually on it today. We'll probably be on it this evening because of the wind pattern. We've been experiencing very strong cold winds from Canada. As you can imagine, we've had a pretty cold winter this year, and that wind is basically a northwesterly wind, which comes in this way, and the planes are flying into this direction. So that explains your observation.
That answers that question for people that asked me. The other question is, the President of the Council, several of the Council, and people here know that I attended the security meeting at Massport about 2 months ago now. And I brought the subject up relative to duck hunting adjacent to the winter waters adjacent to the airport. And had a number of questions, serious concerns of the citizens, for those people that go out and they camouflage boat from October or January. That's a normal federal guideline hunting period. And a lot of objections here. A lot of people are very upset about that. And I was there for a whole hour with your folks in the tower. And my question is, anybody doing anything about it? And I have no one answer tonight. I'm just saying.
I can tell you we are looking at it. I can tell you we are looking at it. I can tell you we are looking at it. I don't have an answer for you for tonight, but I can say we are.
If people ask me, and I was a representative, not Airport Hazards Committee now, citizens of Richmond, very concerned, and they'd like to know if it's going to be anything done. Now, is there going to be a legislation change? We've got the guy that can do it right now, who's sitting over there as a speaker. If there's something needs to be done to protect Winthrop as well as the airport from unethical people so that might take a shot. And things happen on the airports these days. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions for Massport while we have them here? In the audience or from the council? If not, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your presentation.
Good night.
We have 3 public hearings scheduled for tonight on transfers of funds. We'll let you have a chance to clear.
Yeah, be right back.
Okay, let's start off by opening the public hearing for a transfer of... 1 second here. A transfer of sewer retained earning funds in the amount of $73,800 to purchase a 2014 JCB 2CX backhoe loader to replace a 1997 JCB loader. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make positive input on that measure? Or anybody on the council? Yes.
I just want to state that the Council Finance Committee did meet on April 28th at 7 o'clock, and there was a recommendation to move this forward with a positive action.
Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? If not, that public hearing is closed. We'll move on to a transfer water retained earning funds in the amount of $147,000 to engage the services of Wooden Curran to complete the engineering design and bid specifications for contract 4. Anybody like to speak in favor of that? Anybody like to speak in favor of that? If not, would anybody like to speak opposed to it? Council, ma'am.
Is that engineering study going to include sidewalks for both of those projects?
This is, go ahead.
The engineering study?
It's not a study, it's actual engineering for the project.
Engineering, but will it include the sidewalk?
It's not including the sidewalks because there's no funding for the sidewalks. I can certainly have them, as far as engineering, there isn't much engineering for the sidewalk. I mean, we wouldn't be changing sizes or really adding, potentially adding handicap ramps, I suppose, if we were getting into the actual sidewalk part of it. It's more of a cost estimate. I can certainly get a cost estimate as part of this engineering study for the replacement of sidewalks. But there's very little engineering involved in, repairing sidewalks.
So just for public consumption, I am against the projects if they're not going to have sidewalks. And I said in the finance meeting that I would vote for the study because the study would give us the opportunity of having, in a sense, shovel-ready projects. But it would also, because I would prefer to space them out. I would rather do the project right and do one than do them both and not do the sidewalk. So we talked about it, and I don't, I'd like to know,
MWRA money will never allow you to repair. It will allow you just to repair the affected sidewalk. But the funding cannot be used.
I know all the nuance of it now, and it just, to me, I know each project is about 1.4, you would put in for about 2.8. I think you said to do the rest, I mean,
We also know that there's been some delay on another project, and it may bring up some available Chapter 90 funding. I think your point is a good one, that when we go in and do the project we like, and I think Steve's track record is clear on this, we like to do as much as we can when we've mobilized and when we're putting our resources to bear, kind of in the totality of the project. It includes sidewalks, and some sidewalks need to get done as we move along. We'll certainly look at that. And if the funding becomes available that can be applied to that, I think we would definitely want to address it if the funding's available. Steve, is that how you feel?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd like to replace the sidewalks on every road.
I would just rather do one properly and do it right than do two of them and not do them completely right. And we had the conversation.
I understand. What I'm trying to explain is, even if I do one of the projects,
Yeah.
there's no sidewalk money for that one project.
But that being the case, we could still bond that and it would have the same net effect. We have to pay. We have to pay one way or another. So if we're gonna pay 1.4 for each one, if it's 2.8, and it's 2.8, I would rather put in, 1.9 and get it done right, and then 1.9 again, than not, to me, I think we have to set the bar high and do things right the right way. If it costs us a little more, if it has to be extended out over a longer period of time, I would just prefer to do it, that if it was my neighborhood, that's what I would want.
Okay, right now, the motion is on the engineering. The hearing is on the engineering. When we come time to the construction, we'll have this discussion, but right now,
The engineering is part of finding out, it's part of the pricing.
he's going to do the engineering for both projects. And after both projects' engineering, then we will determine which one or both we're going to do. But at this point, we're talking about the engineering. Councilor Mayor. I'm sorry. Yeah, Councilor Mayor.
If we don't have the cost of the...
I can certainly talk to the engineer and tell him, when he puts together the engineering and the bid specs, to have an alternate bid for sidewalks. It shouldn't affect the cost of the engineering. It's strictly a measurement and figuring out square yards of cement sidewalk. So it's not a difficult thing to put in as an alternate. We can certainly do that.
If there's no further discussion on the engineering transfer of $147,000, Mr. Osborne?
Was there public comment already?
No.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there was, you missed it.
No, that's coming up next. Is this going to be voted on right now? You guys are...
No.
Thank you, sorry. I was at the ferry meeting.
That closes that hearing, and I was remiss in that I did not have Denise call the roll, so if we could just move back to that. Denise, would you call the roll?
Council Callow. Present. Council Sanford. He's here. Council Boncory.
Here.
Council Barone.
Yes.
Council Terry.
Yes.
Council Boyajin.
Yes.
Council Mayo.
Here.
Vice President Del Vento.
Yes.
President Gill.
Present. Thank you. Okay, and the third hearing is to a motion to transfer $28,046 from the General Stabilization Fund to Town Manager Contract Services for Woods Hole Group to assist the town with the appeal of the FEMA flood insurance rate map. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the motion? Or is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to the motion?
I'm sorry, Peter, I really don't know. I wanted to comment on the 140 for the engineering.
You can do that in public comment. We haven't voted on it.
Okay, as long as I can do it before a vote, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, then thank you, sorry about that.
Any discussion on the 28046? If not, that public hearing is closed as well. Thank you. Under public comment, we had a rash of telephone calls for people who couldn't be here, wanting to express a happy birthday to Town Manager McKenna. So I will cover that piece of the public comment. Happy birthday, Mr. McKenna.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Public comment, Mr. Osborne.
Thank you very much. David Osborne, Precinct 2. I just want to comment a couple of things. The first is on the use of the retained earnings in the sewer and water funds for the engineering and also for the purchase of the backward end loader or something like that.
when that retained earnings, or that reserve was established for last year the way it was, the only talk I ever heard about the reserves was to keep that money and maintain and stabilize our rates, and also in the event of emergencies, have money available for emergencies. This seems, now it seems, on these motions before you now, it seems like they're going right ahead and taking a quarter of that $1 million in reserves that we have to buy stuff. I am totally opposed to that. And the first thing is the back-end loader, that's going to be used by the cemetery, the highway, the sewer, water, the school department will probably use it, the town's going to use it, everybody's going to use that thing. And to put the burden, take that money from the sewer or the water, whichever it is, for the use of basically a town-wide service, is inappropriate. That should be a purchase under the general fund in next year's budget period. And it should not be coming out of the retained earnings of the sewer or water fund. And I feel the same way about the $140,000 engineering study. From what I can see and the way it's been planned, that the town manager is looking with your approval to put $2.something million onto the sewer and water bills, the debt service of which the sewer and water people are going to be paying for that entirely. I don't know if I need a history lesson here or what. You have to look at what you're doing here, and you can vote 8-1. I just need one counselor to stand up and say to Mr. McKenna or to anybody, enough is enough. Voted in 9-1, 8-1, but one person stand up for the citizens. $1.5 million on the sewer, on the water payers for the smart meter. $2.something million last year on the sewer and water rate payers for work that was done around Sunday side or whatever. You've got almost $3 million going on the sewer and water rate payers with this. You have so much money. When you add in the mistake that was made on the collections last year, which added $200 to a sewer and water bill because of the way it was done, in the last year and a half, 2 years, the sewer and water payments, if you add what that costs the ratepayer, that's almost $500 a year if you include the $2.8 million coming in this year. That's an increase of a water bill by $500. And you have the high school, middle school debt exclusion override coming our way at $500 or $700 or $800 a year. Someone has got to say enough is enough. And now, if this was that important a project, and it had to be done no matter what, then the town should take out a bond and pay for it out of the general fund. Or you could have the people decide in the debt exclusion override. Do they want to pay for this? Put it on the ballot. If they want to pay for it, fine, and they'll be able to take a tax write-off on top of it. People have no say in this right now. Or you could have the town subsidize the payment of this. There's a million different ways, but the easy way is to keep the people out and people unaware and keep them from voting on this by just throwing it on the sewer and water bills. And we have taken a huge burden, way beyond what we should be taking. And somebody's got to stand up and say something. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Quick overview of Crest Ave. The project up there is moving along. They were grading up there this week. They were supposed to be paving tomorrow. However, due to a delay on the pavers, they're not going to be paving up there tomorrow. And we do expect the sand trucks to start Thursday or Friday. So the commitment to the business owners and the residents up there, there'll be no limitation on street parking until that parking lot is done. We're committed to that. We talked to DCR today. They understand that. So they're going to start with 1 or 2 trucks on Thursday and Friday and ease into it as that project finishes up. So by Monday, we should have a complete binding up there, and not the finished coat until June, I think they said they'll come back and do a finished coat, but you'll at least have binding up there and parking spots laid out.
So the parking lot will be available there for
The new parking lot as well as the front parking lot will be all redone.
before a truck rolls.
Before we restrict the parking on the streets.
Thank you very much. Council.
So,
just in response to you. You deserve that response, at least my opinion on it, if anybody else wants to. First of all, the citizens of the town voted overwhelmingly for the school. Just what you wanted, okay? Overwhelmingly, not even close. It wasn't a 52-51, it was a landslide by all intents and purposes, okay? I'm going to vote for the engineering study out of the water reserve, because while I feel the water reserve is not up to where it is, it can still handle that type of study. And quite frankly, I don't know how much longer this town can decide to not fix anything. We spent many, many years, Dave, not fixing roads. And because of that, we are so far in the hole. We put ourselves in that position, in my opinion, for whatever the reason was. I wasn't here, I didn't make the decision. I'm not necessarily interested in paying for it, but I don't see any value in allowing an exposed water pipe on Francis Street to burst and cost me millions of dollars in water to the MWRA. I believe the 2.8 million, which I am not for those two projects unless they are done properly, which is going to raise it up, I understand that. I believe that comes out to about $66, $67. I know it's not money people want to spend, but I think in that particular instance, if we don't start a policy of catching up for the many, many years that we didn't do what we were supposed to do, then we are kicking problems down the road for our kids. I read a lot of your writings, and you seem to me to be an individual who doesn't want to kick more things down the road. And to me, that is the biggest problem we face today. We have to stand up and take responsibility for our current situation, for the generation that gave us what we have, and to make sure that we instill that in the future. It's a tough nut to swallow. I know you're not happy about it. I don't think anybody here is happy about putting the money into it, but I don't think anybody would be any more happy if Steve came in one day and said, hey, we just got hit for a burst pipe on Francis Street that dumped 1 million gallons back into the ocean that we now all have to pay. So that's my feeling on it. I know you don't agree with it. I know we're not going to agree with it. But I want you to know that it's not for cowardice, it's not for a lack of information, it's not for wanting to spend anybody else's money. It's because I believe the tires are bald, and right now, I think that running on bald tires will be more of a cost to us in the future than it would be if we don't accept this right now. So,
Thank you. Any further public comment? Heather?
Good evening, Heather Engman, Precinct 4. I'm here this evening as a member of the Board of Health. And I noticed that the Logan Airport Health Study is on the agenda for later this evening. And I think it's very important that the town be afforded an opportunity to review this study, and would encourage the town council to obtain that information, whether it's from Massport or from DPH. It affects all of us in the town directly, and we should really have that information. I also wanted to follow up on Councilor Mail's statement earlier that we have tremendous health issues in this town. I'm very excited that the town has hired a commissioner of inspections, and I expect Mr. Hickey to be tremendously helpful with regard to inspections and licensure and compliance matters. But in addition to those issues, we also have other very important health needs in the town that include outreach and education on health topics like substance abuse, hoarding and unsanitary living conditions, special needs for our seniors, and potentially gambling problems. And my recommendation to the town council and to the town manager at this point is, I think we need to start a discussion about hiring a public health professional for the town that can implement and direct public health programs on education and outreach. It's important for Winthrop to be on top of and in front of these public health issues. As just one example, opioid abuse is a growing problem. Prescription drug abuse is a growing public health epidemic across the country. And we need to be educating folks about proper storage and disposal of their prescription drugs. Because if we don't get in front of these types of problems, we just allow them to get worse. But implementing any sort of meaningful public health program requires somebody with the education and the training and the backgrounds to do that. So I would encourage the town council and the town manager to start discussions about having a public health professional that has experience implementing and managing community public health programs.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
Any further public comment? If not, correspondence.
They do one more thing?
We just closed public comment, but I'll go back.
I had the pleasure of talking with Steve Carroll today, and he responded to a letter I wrote to you regarding the $1.5 million smart meter. And here's my points on that. I think that the first $750,000 had a public hearing on the MWRA bond debt, which was voted on by the council. The other $750,000 to pay for that $1.5 million has generally been discussed at council hearings, certainly in between the town hallways, about adding 3 years of quarterly surcharge or fee to the homeowners of Winthrop for 3 years to pay for that $750,000. Now, that has never been voted on by the council. I have never heard one councilor offer a pro or con on that. And I watch these things religiously, these council meetings, and I read every communication and I research everything possible, everything we can read about. I have not seen one person give a pro or con as to whether that should be the right thing. There's never, in the history of the town, there's never been one person who has the ability to place a $750,000 debt onto the homeowners of Winthrop on a quarterly basis, mandatory, arbitrarily. Not one person has ever had that authority in this town. That's what happened here. This has never been it's never been voted in on the annual budget, this year's budget, or even year before. It has not been voted on. The loan, the NWRA loan has, the $750,000 on a quarterly fee to the homeowners is not. My feeling is that what has been happening needs to be revisited. And my feeling is, and I could quote the charter on the appropriation section, which says that any change in the budget really has to come to public hearing and has to come before the council before you vote. Chances are you're going to vote for it anyways. But I waited and waited and waited for it to be a public hearing on that part of it. I didn't want to fight the MWRA law. That's interest-free, that's fine. But I wanted to have my say on the other half, and it never came forward, it was never on the agenda, it never was into Mr. Del Vento's subcommittee on finance, it never has been anyway. It's been put on the backs without any due diligence or due process.
I will make a commitment to you. I will ask the town manager to review, if you would, review with the...
We've already done.
You've already done, okay, then...
We have a response from Mr. Crossman on the whole matter.
Okay, then, would you just...
No, we do.
Hold on.
I got that today, but the thing with Mr. Gallo and I spoke, and he didn't answer the questions I asked.
Okay, if we could just hold this class back and forth, can you just check Mr. McKenna and see if it's appropriate for us to have a confirmatory vote for that issue? Do we need a...
Let me just say,
No, go ahead.
we believe that the first tranche of funding came in 2005 from a unanimous vote of town meeting. So it was rescinded by vote a couple of weeks ago. What was the authority was there. For $600,000. Secondly, the other matter was about the funding. We took a different approach because this originally was estimated back in 2005 to be around a $600,000 program. We went out to bid on it. It came in about 1.2. So it was widely misunderstood about it back then. We needed to come up with some resources to fund the full amount of this project. Steve's taken this on as a new approach to use DPW resources and not have a full turnkey product brought in by a consultant, but to do it in-house and to save the taxpayer money by doing that.
I'm not bringing that up.
Secondly, let me finish. Secondly, Steve has held multiple meetings and public noticed hearings on the matter with the subcommittee of the DPW, as well as those minutes brought back to the council and read into the minutes and adopted as the strategy of funding. We've never talked about this as an isolated matter of just the bonding. We talked about it in the totality of the strategy that we were proposing, which included the fees as part of that conversation.
You talked about it.
Yes, we did, and there was consensus.
No, there was never a consensus. We're not going to have an argument back.
No, there was never a consensus. I'm trying to explain our position, okay? And our position was that there was clear, unanimous consent of the council that the strategy we were proposing was two-pronged. Funds or a vote? I asked Mr. Gill, I asked you to give me a date and when you voted on it. That's what I asked for. The time, when Mr. Del...
I don't have that, I referred it.
It doesn't exist.
When you're finished, then I'll...
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I didn't respond to that, I referred it to the people, to Mr. McKenna, Mr. Calla, I read their response, I'm satisfied with it. If you're not satisfied with it, I'm sorry, you can challenge it and...
Peter, I've got Eyewitness News, the I-team calling me, we're talking about it. I've submitted a letter to the Attorney General's office based on the conversation I had.
Okay.
You cannot do this, it's against the charter.
Okay.
And I don't know why, I think you're afraid to give in to me, because you know, I think everyone here knows I'm right.
Mr. Osborne, you know I'm not afraid to give it.
No, I know
I'm not afraid of you.
I know, but anyways, thank you for letting me,
Thank you.
See you next week.
Okay, 2 weeks then. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 15. Any further public comment? Moving on to correspondence. I did have a letter that council received from Lisa Alberghini, and she has asked me to read it into the record, which I will. Dear Council President Gill, I would appreciate it if you would read this letter into the record at the town council meeting this evening during the public comment period. Actually, I'm doing it during the correspondence period. Thank you. Excuse me. Dear councilors, thank you for allowing discussion of the mitigation package of Mohegan Sun to enter the arbitration process. Mohegan's total disregard for our community is quite shocking. I appreciate your work to protect them in this very troubling process. The lack of a substantial offer by Mohegan Sun is especially frustrating and infuriating following the April 1st council meeting, at which they received loud and clear feedback on the many serious impacts of the casino, and considering what they have offered to towns that are not nearly as close to or affected by the impacts of the proposed casino in Revere. I am unable to join you at the council meeting tonight because I have another meeting to attend. I and many others, though, are anxious to learn more about the process, the arbitration process. With that in mind, President Gill, I would appreciate it if you would kindly email the answers to the following questions so we may better understand the next steps and how the town is preparing to submit the best possible case for consideration by the arbitrator. Pardon my cough. What is the deadline? Number one, what is the deadline for submitting Winthrop's evidence in our case regarding the impacts of the Revere Casino in our community? Number two, what is the deadline for the arbitrator's decision? Question number two, is the study by the MAPC of the impacts of the casino on Winthrop and the traffic study by the traffic consultant you have engaged complete? How do we get copies of those reports? Clearly, this is public information, I assume. How are those reports to be reviewed by Winthrop town officials and our town boards who have been charged by the town charter and the town council to provide their expertise on health, safety, public works, planning, and other crucial matters of importance to the town? What other experts and/or town boards is the council calling before the arbitrator to assist in stating our case, in addition to the town's attorney? At a previous council meeting, I believe Councilor Boncory stated that there was no need to get additional input from the town boards because many meetings and hearings were previously held that offered input to the council on casino impacts. Are the transcripts from these meetings and hearings being submitted to the arbitrator since, as was pointed out, they provided ample testimony of casino impacts? How do we get transcripts of those meetings and hearings? Thank you very much for answering these questions and again for doing everything possible to protect the interests of the community and the residents of this great town. As I expect you know, I remain firmly opposed to the Revere Casino. That said, it is our collective duty as citizens and town representatives to ensure that the arbitration process is approached with great rigor and diligence, and that we bring every possible piece of evidence to those discussions. My very best, Lisa Alberghini. There was a communication to the council regarding the trees at the parking lot that Terry was just talking about on Crest Ave. There was a concern that 5 trees had been removed. The response is that there were 5 trees removed in order to construct the parking lot correctly. However, there are 10 trees being placed there, so the net gain is 5. Yes, there were 5 taken down, but there'll be 10 in the end. That's all I have on the correspondence, unless anybody has anything else. Not Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee met on April 28th. There were 3 items before it. The first item was the use of water retained earnings to fund a water main replacement engineering services. Second item was the use of sewer retained earnings to fund the purchase of a backhoe loader. And the third item was the fire department purchase of a vehicle. Presentations were made on all of them. The first one, which was the sewer retained earnings to fund the purchase of a backhoe loader, or the second one, sorry, was moved forward on with a positive action. The engineering study, the engineering services used by water retained earnings was moved forward with a positive action recommendation to the council, and the purchase of a new tile with the use of grant funding to replace a 1998 fire inspection vehicle was also moved forward to the full council.
Did you have this one?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Any further committee reports? If not, moving on to the town manager's report, Mr. McKenna. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No.
You all set?
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am still a little chagrined about the comments on the insinuations that we did not publicize enough the Radio Read rating. And I will stand by my director and his response in writing to all of you that you have a packet of that clearly shows the numerous meetings that we had on the issue. The fact that we discussed that in here with the council multiple times, and minutes record that fact, that you all were well informed of this and had consented to that fee structure as being part and parcel to the entirety of the strategy of funding the Radio Read system. And so I do not agree with Mr. Osborne that this was a bifurcated proposition. It wasn't. It was 2 pieces funding the entirety of that program. One was the MWRA funding, which only allowed us to borrow up to $750. If we had more headroom to borrow, we would have borrowed more. And the second piece is to come up with a fee structure that's built on the size of the meter that applies to each and every home, which is different. And we sent a notification to every single homeowner in this community that that was the program. Mr. Osborne doesn't own a home. He didn't get that notice. So, that's too bad. But the fact is, we were well in front of this as a public relations matter a year ago. Enough said. Tonight, we have concurrent with this meeting, a public meeting that's being held at the E.B. Newton on the ferry, a public forum discussing some logistical issues. We have been approached by Boston Harbor Cruises to determine whether or not there's public interest to have their water taxi come and provide a stop in Winthrop in their route in the harbor, together with the access to the Harbor Islands as well, and Boston. So we're encouraged by this dialogue that we've opened up with Boston Harbor Cruises. That may be a bridge for this season while we continue to pursue the procurement of the town vessel, which we have now received approval of our invitation for bid from the state. It'll go over final review with the Federal Highway Administration and then go out on the street, and that process will be finally well underway. So the progress is being made, albeit slow. I'm meeting with the golf course leadership next week to discuss progress on a couple of fronts in terms of the drainage project for Veterans Ave and the lake. Some folks have noticed that the lake has been drained. We've done that strategically to allow for more capacity to enable the course to dry out and to allow for some drainage to occur because of a lack of movement in the swale that abuts Veterans Road. A lot has to be done here. We're probably looking at a significant project at some point in the future, but we're meeting with the golf course to chart a course of how to get that project underway and to talk about other mutual concerns.
Can I ask a question at that point? Is there some kind of cease and desist order on them from conservation?
Yes.
About cleaning out the swale?
Yes.
Because the swale has so much trash in it,
Yes.
they wanted to clean it out?
Yes.
There is a
Steve,
cease
you
and
want to
desist.
mention that?
Yeah. We actually go in front of Conservation next week, next Wednesday, I believe. And as part of our NOI, notice of intent, which we included the golf course maintenance, is to be able to remove the debris from the swale, be able to open up a culvert that goes over where the MWRA trunk line crosses that swale. There's a major restriction there. In our notice of intent, we're proposing to open that, remove that restriction, and we think that that's going to help the flow of the swale. Notice of intent also includes us being able to install the remaining guardrail, moving the fence from remaining guardrail down Veterans Road. Down the line, we'll have to do a larger notice of intent, a much larger scale engineering process to survey the entire topography of the golf course. Golf club wants to install a berm on the inner bank of the swale. We don't have in our notice of intent. We're not proposing any changes, any addition to that coastal bank. It is an environmental resource that we just can't bring fill in. That has to be engineered, and that's another process, which will include the dredging of the lakes as well. We'd have another big notice of intent filing. Yes, to remove the debris and the trash and everything you see floating in that swale is absolutely included in the notice of intent, which we'll get a determination on next week.
To continue.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I read back, I think about a year ago or 6 months ago, we got a thing that was like a $1.82 million project to do the whole thing. So this temporary...
The Cadillac solution.
No, I understand that. I understand.
We may not get to do that.
I understand it, but this work that you're doing under this NOI, which is sort of a cleanup act, where are we funding that from?
Presently, we have been using existing town funds.
So regular general ledger?
Yeah, we haven't been doing much. We have had a donation from the temple for the guardrail, so that's just,
That was for the 500
cost and
feet.
expense, of that, right. What we've done there now, we've used our own resources to do, am I right on that, Steve? Yeah. But we haven't touched much, which is unfortunate. A lot more obviously needs to be done. We need to clean that out, and we need to get it functioning again. It's been left there to grow and really become a useless swale. And its drainage, there are two main drains of the town. One we've addressed, Ingleside. The other is this. And this drains the Highlands and all the eastern area of, east of Veterans Road. That all flows into this drain system. It's got to be cleaned out and functioning.
Okay.
We were awarded a $50,000 partnership grant from the Department of Energy this week, and that's in partnership with the City of Chelsea, where we will hire jointly a energy manager who will help us look at our energy use as a community and to recommend on an ongoing basis how we can improve on our energy use. We've all delved into energy as a part-time job around town, and we found that the changes in the field and the sophistication of this area deserves someone with a focused attention to it. And we were very pleased, and thank you to the speaker and his office for assisting us in securing this $50,000 partnership grant. So we will be sharing an individual with the City of Chelsea who will help us bring some professional leadership and management to how we use energy throughout our facilities.
How long is that grant for?
The grant, it will extend for 3 years, so it'll be renewable, and after which we will assess whether we continue it or not and what the results are.
Thank you.
We have been informed that, the work continues down at the Inspection Services Department, and all the team is coming together and blending nicely. Al Legee started last week and has already hit the ground running on a number of very important issues that we've wanted to see it get addressed. They've been out causing a little trouble on getting some signs taken out of the center, which were not supposed to be there, et cetera. So I'm getting the consequences of effort, which is more phone calls and questions why. So, you do one good thing and then you get, phone calls for it. So that's happening. But, folks will come to know Al. He's you couldn't be nicer, about it. He goes out and, imposes, restrictions and fines and does it with a smile and a handshake. So, you feel like, it's justice. Anyway, I want to give also the council a quick update where we are with Mohegan Sun. As we all know at this point, we're heading towards a process called arbitration with the applicants of the casino license for Suffolk Downs. And that process will be, is currently, engaged in earnest by our council. They are preparing briefs and working the arbitration guidelines with respect to selection of arbiters and the like. And we should be receiving an update on the process in the next couple of days. Their deadline is on Friday to file essentially a brief, an application for arbitration with the Gaming Commission, and that's where we are with that. We expect that a process will unfold where there will be a hearing and a decision made by the 26th of May. So it'll be a fairly expedited process. I'd ask the CFO to give a quick report.
I just have a quick question.
Hold on. Greg? Councilor Mayo?
Mohegan wasn't able to come to terms with anyone, correct?
Yes, they can.
Yes, they came to terms with 9 communities.
I'm talking about no close surrounding. Boston.
Chelsea, they came to an agreement with.
Did they sign that agreement with Chelsea? Or
They
was that
accepted the
Caesars?
agreement of Chelsea. They went in as the final hour and agreed to accept those terms. So the agreement is between Mohegan and Chelsea, not between Caesars and Chelsea.
So Boston, Winthrop, and Saugus, all the closest surrounding communities, were unable to come up with an agreement with Mohegan. And the one agreement they did come up with, they actually backdoored because it wasn't really their agreement. They did a great job.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Jim, you may want to run this by Bruce. At some point in the very near future, our application, our arbitration paperwork will become, once filed, will become public record with the Gaming Commission. Is there any way we can get that up on our website?
If it's public record, it'll be made public. Sure.
Check with Bruce with the actual date so we can release that, so that we can get that up there and let people know. But where we've been coming from. And
right.
I believe he said the date that it's filed becomes public record. Any other?
Yes, I would ask the CFO to give a quick report.
Sure, I'll be brief. As you know, we got the budget report out last week. Now we're looking to turn the corner and close out the current fiscal year. The next meeting will have a series of motions to move some money around within the general fund. Areas that we're most concerned about looking at closely are utilities, gas, which we briefed before, legal, veterans, and police overtime.
Thank you. And still under the manager's report, I'm going to call on Chief Flanagan to give us
I was just about to do
Okay,
that. So, thank you. Chief.
In regards to the, just an update on co-digestion, what's going on down Deer Island. The MWRA continues the feasibility study, reviewing the waste byproduct, bringing it in by barge. Both Deer Island, the staff and Boston Tow and Transportation visited the pier this week. They found that the pier is in good condition and capable of taking barges. The Coast Guard came out to do the pier on April 28th. There is a 60-day approval process after the notice of intent is filed. Deer Island staff are evaluating the method of transfer from the pier to the digesters, size of pipeline, storage, and cost. The MWRA has retained a firm to conduct channel soundings to see if any dredging would be needed. Waste Management is reviewing barging options such as self-propelled tank boats, roll-on, roll-off on your typical flat barge, and tankers and tank barging. Tank barging appears to be the best solution, and Waste Management is looking into it. The Waste Management facility in Charlestown has got MEPA certification in March, and is expected to have its DEP certification issued very shortly. And once all of their certifications are in place, it'll take 6 months to build out that processing plant. On the other, to the MWRA, since the community committee has started, they're opening their gates to the plant this Saturday in honor of the council president's birthday, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And they're inviting everybody to the sewage treatment plant.
Is that really a surprise, Patty? Is that really a surprise?
That's right. The MWRA would like to invite the Winthrop residents for a tour of Deer Island Treatment Plant on Saturday, May 10th, 2014, from 9:30 to noon. This is an opportunity for the plant's neighbors to get inside and look to see how the plant works. Just so you know, everybody who came to the public hearing who put their email address down will be sent an invitation directly. It's on the WCAT site, as well as it'll be on the transcript this week. They would like you to send them a little email or a telephone call to tell them you are coming, just so they can judge refreshments and food, but nobody will be turned away at the gate. So they're hoping it will be informative. They'll see the island. It is a place that has to be respected, but it also is a very well-run plant, and there's just as much to see underground as there is to see above ground. So they're going to welcome the residents, and I think you will see this, again, opened up to the town, and again, a little more interaction between the MWRA and the people of the town. But right now, all of their energy is being channeled into the barging of the slurry that we had our meetings on. So right now, everything is going forward with barging, and there is no talk of trucking.
Thank you for your efforts on that and for your update.
That concludes my report, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Chief, Mr. CFO, thank you for your input.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So, all those transfers, are you looking for council reserve for any of that?
In the general fund, I believe, yeah, possibly, yeah. Not outside the general fund. I had said hopefully we'll address all of our deficits within the general fund. That would include council reserve.
Any idea how much?
No, we're still pulling through and seeing what has.
Give us a little backside, you know. Any idea?
I really don't.
Range?
0 to 17 minutes.
I get
Now we
more financial information at home.
We've been.
I get more financial information at home.
Okay, so we'll look forward to those for the next meeting. Moving on to old business. Councilor Vice President Del Vento.
Okay, you got to play with my agenda package. There's one thing about technology. Okay, we have a motion to move the town council authorize the use of sewer retained earnings in the amount of $73,800 to purchase a 2014 JCB 2CX backhoe loader to replace the 1997 JCB loader all that has exceeded its useful life and requires extensive repair or take any other action relative thereto.
The motion coming from finance doesn't require a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Councilor Del Vento.
The motion was referred from the Finance Committee that the Town Council authorize the use of water retained earnings in the amount of $147,000 to engage in service of Wood and Curran to complete the engineering design and bid specifications for Contract 4 of the water main replacement project in Cottage Hill and Pico Ave areas or take any other action relative thereto.
Coming from committee, there's no need for a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Let's try that again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. The next one you had was the Chevy Tahoe.
I referred from the Finance Committee, move the town council authorize the down payment of $15,000 towards the lease purchase of a 2014 Chevy Tahoe for the fire department. Funding will come from Fund 583 FEMA MEMA. Total cost of the Tahoe will be $42,000. Remaining balance of $27,000 will be funded in fiscal 15 and fiscal 16. I'll take any other action relative thereto.
Coming from a committee, requires no second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Then we have a request to transfer $28,046 from the General Stabilization Fund for the Woods Hole Group to assist the town with the appeal of the FEMA flood insurance rate map. We had a hearing on that tonight. Could I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilor Lettieri, seconded by Councilor Sanford. Is there any discussion on that motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Also from the town manager, that he moves that the council establish special revenue revolving account entitled, quote, the Playstead Maintenance and Improvements Fund, in accordance with the provision of Chapter 68, the Special Acts of the General Court of the year 1917. This area is commonly known as town-owned open space property surrounded by the following streets: Ross, Veterans, River, Payson, and Main. Further, the purpose of this fund shall be to hold and disperse all rental funds and other such revenue earned by the uses and charges of this property, and that such funds shall be used solely for the benefit of improvements and maintenance thereto. Additional remaining fund balance shall be carried forward year to year, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Council Barone, seconded by Council Keller.
That was referred to committee already.
Good. That has been referred to a joint committee of the Finance Committee and Rules
Correct.
to hold a meeting, a joint meeting?
Correct. So that's still on hold. You guys haven't held a meeting yet.
We're trying to
We're
get,
trying to,
Okay.
the date now, and what's the, maybe the 12th?
12th it could be.
That's right. We
I
had
get 13th and 15th for finance.
You know, the 12th or the 19th?
Why can't I do the 19th? I can't do the 19th.
Is this on that?
That meeting will be held on the 12th. We get a room, Denise?
Yep.
Okay, meeting to be held on the 12th, so we'll postpone that till our next regular council meeting.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Mayo, motion to allow senior recipients of the town parking. Do you have that, or do you want to read it?
I was on the other page, but I'm happy to drop down to...
We had a motion from Councilor Mayo. Motion is made for discussion to allow senior recipients of the town parking sticker program the ability to pay the current fee with the funds going to programming at the senior center. That was a motion by Councilor Mayo. Is there a second?
I'll second that for discussion.
Seconded by Councilor Sanders. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I have
Council Mayo?
some thoughts on it. So, there are 1,200, according to the CFO, there are 1,200 stickers given out to individuals for no charge. And my thought is that some of those people may be interested in paying the fee. If we maxed it out, there would be $6,000, and I thought, in light of what I've heard through the budget situation regarding issues at the COA, that it may not be a bad idea to be able to allow people to donate money that could go to programming for the Council of Aging. So that is why I came up with this.
So for further explanation, what this is it would allow the senior citizens who now get the parking stickers for free to donate that amount
to a specific use.
Yeah,
Counselor Kelly?
Which is $5 for the...
that's what we all pay for the fee.
What age does it start at?
What?
The senior, the ones that are
I
getting
believe it's
free?
62, isn't it?
65, I think.
65? Do you know, Jim, what age the
65.
parking?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
Yeah, I know that it's 65.
Okay, so it's
'Cause I know
65.
we've been paying and my husband's
Well,
over
you're
that
still,
age.
you're not, you're still a kid, keep paying. That's all.
Your husband.
Your husband is paying, not you.
What's the wrong
He pays though, I never even know.
Hold on.
We have the ability right now, if any senior wants to donate to the Council on Aging, they can go to the Council on Aging and donate.
Correct.
$5, $10, $100. I don't know why we want to mess with the program that we have when they can voluntarily go and donate any amount they want now.
Counselor?
Mr. President, I think Council Mill is running with a pretty good idea and intent here. What if, and I don't even think this takes a vote, this takes anything except maybe some word, changing a document to Word. What if if it's the will, and I don't get shot at, what if we take the application, and as the federal government does and the state government does on your tax returns, check the box, on our tax bills, the scholarship fund, and next to the senior application, put a little box with a little check mark and say, I would like to make a donation of X to Council on Aging. Put it on the application, and I don't think that takes a vote, or that takes anything.
That'd be something we could do simply enough, Mr. McCann?
You know, it sounds simple, but let me check on it.
Tim?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll look into it.
It just sounds like we just need to add another line to the bill.
All right, so does that, Council Mayor,
What?
does that kind of serve what you were trying to do and get it done quicker?
You know, I think when there are issues of need, there should be a program to address it. I also think that when you have a car, you're probably beyond the issue of need. Now, I went down to get gas today, and the gas is up 19 cents in the last 2 weeks, and I didn't see one person pulling in there that went in and took a form from Cumberland Farms and said, where do I complain about the price? The fact is that I don't actually believe anybody should be getting a free sticker. There just, in my mind, is no reason for, if you have a car, I don't think the $5 is an egregious charge, and I think that the Council on Aging is desperate for funding, and I was hoping to be able to generate some additional income so that they could have some additional programming, so seniors could give the money to an area where many seniors use the service. That's my intent.
I think your original intent was that it be voluntary, and now I'm hearing that you would like to make it
Well,
not voluntary,
no.
but, excuse me, but
Go ahead.
correct me when I finish, that it not be voluntary, but that the funds for anybody in that category be dedicated to the Council on Aging? Or is it, because if it's voluntary, what the Vice President said fits that, but if it's not voluntary, then it's another issue.
My intent, okay, was that it wouldn't be voluntary, but I thought it had absolutely no opportunity of moving forward if it wasn't voluntary, so I decided to opt for what I thought would potentially be easy enough to get through, but I guess that that's not possibly going to be the case, so.
No, well, the motion right now is for discussion, it's not.
Oh, I understand.
Council President?
I made it as benign as possible.
I guess, Councilor Mayor, I guess how is what you're proposing, I know you wanted the full Monty, but how is it different than what the Vice President's proposing? You know, that you have a checkbox that says it's, you know, that you can donate if would you choose to give the $5 fee when you get the sticker?
Yeah, you know, the unfortunate issue is that if it can be out there and, you know, say, I think that we've seen, am I wrong, have we seen as more people have started to pay online and do other fundings that they're not sending in the bills? So take, for instance, how many of you know you can give a donation to the scholarship committee on one of the bills? And I believe my mother's told me that it's down because it's not, no, it's down, all right, but is it still being used?
It is still being used.
Okay, and is it?
That's on the real estate
Over
tax.
$900.
Okay, so, you know, I'm trying to look for ways where we can take money, and I don't honestly see why we be giving out a car is a.
But that's a different motion.
I understand, I'm trying to get something through and move it forward.
Then, I guess at this point, we've had the discussion, but we have a motion on the floor to have a discussion.
Correct.
Is there an amendment to that motion that we now charge seniors or allow seniors to voluntarily contribute? Councilman, Morrow?
Prior to any amendment being made, I just wanted to ask process-wise, if we collect a fee, which I thought a fee was supposed to cover a service, but if we collect a fee, doesn't it go into the general fund? I mean, and it would be a separate process to earmark it for the senior center.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. CFO, I believe the Council on Aging has a revolving fund as well as a Friends of account. So I'd have to double back, Councilor Varone, and see to what extent we could avail those funds to appropriate these funds if this is a specific vote for a specific use of funds to be funded into a specific account. Sounds complicated, but it is.
I think I was, trying to maybe find a happy medium, but I think the easiest thing to do, just for the discussion's sake, is to refer the motion to, the discussion to the Public Works Committee, because that's where parking is, and they can come up with a recommendation.
Refer to the DPW committee? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Motion by Vice President Del Vento to refer this to the DPW committee. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor
Sanford.
Just trying to see if
I usually would forget.
Second by Councilor Sanford. Wow. Yeah, the motion was just to discuss, and we did discuss without a vote, so now we're taking it off, and we're making a motion to refer this issue to the DPW committee. All those in favor of referring, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm not interested in moving it over there.
So it's
2 noes.
2 noes, 7 yes. The next item on the agenda was already voted on a previous special meeting. That was the letter to the Supreme Court. And the next one was a motion to submit the planning board letter, and based upon the...
I would withdraw that since it's a moot point at this,
So that's been withdrawn. New business, Council Mail. Excuse me, is there any other old business before we move on? If not, new business, Council Mail.
Which one, the 19th?
We're on DPH Health Study.
So I had requested, prior to this evening's meeting there, I had thought it would be a good idea to consider requesting of the, I'm trying to find it in the list.
You want me to read it?
You have it up, yeah, I have it on the line.
Motion to investigate an appropriate process to urge Massport to release the DPH Logan Airport Health Study.
So I would actually amend that and ask why we don't take a direct action and send a letter to the Mass Department of Public Health and ask them what's going on, when are we going to see this? So we don't get any money for them, it shouldn't be a tough letter to write, and, I mean, I think it's been a year already, so.
Okay, so the process, hold on, the process that we're going through right now is, Council Mail has made a motion to investigate the appropriate process to urge Massport to release the DPH. Before we change the motion, we need to have a second and then an amendment. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Hold on 1 second. Just for discussion. We got a second for discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would make sure that the language says that it's not a Massport study, but it's a DPH study.
That's what it says, DPH Logan.
Okay, I thought I heard something.
No, to urge Massport to release the DPH study.
They don't release it.
Yeah,
That's the point.
I think clarification.
Okay, so-
It's a DPH study, the DPH needs to release it.
But that's what...
Massport participated, my understanding.
Okay, let's hear from the...
Massport participated, gave them data, backed away, it's the DPH study.
Okay.
They need to release it. So it'd be a request, I believe, for DPH to release its own study of the issue of Logan Airport.
Bob?
No, you're right. It's not a Massport study.
Right.
They were involved in it just as we have been involved in it. And in fact, We have been waiting now for almost 2 years for a result. So we are very concerned as to why it's taken them this long, because the study obviously has been completed. So I think we have to question why it's taken this long. But if you're going to send any communication, it should be to the Department of Public Health, not to Massport.
Tony?
This council has elected me as the representative on the CAC for the Mass Public Health study. And again, it's not, Massport does not have it, they could have it covertly, I don't know, but they don't have it in hand, and it's been through a number of peer reviews. The first peer review, they sent it back to the DPH, DPH, and then they wanted something else done, so then they had to send it back to the peer review committee. And so the last thing I heard, and it's very hard to communicate with these people because they just say, well, it's coming down the road, don't worry about it, you know. But the last thing I heard was it was pretty much completed. They needed to translate it into a number of languages. They needed a venue to put it out to the public. However, it should be going to each one of the towns involved, public health and town council and the town managers, before it goes anywhere near the public or the press. And that's the other thing. They want to keep it away from the press as long as they can, because, well,
This can be good.
it could be a problem.
I think Councilor Mayall's intent was to, basically, to boil it down, was to get a copy of the DPH study about Logan.
What I'll do is I'll send a letter to Suzanne Condon, who's in charge of that, and I will ask her, and maybe it should be followed up by the town council, and that we need some information. Where is it going to go? When's it come down the pike? And it just keeps postponing and postponing and postponing. I've only been to one meeting, and since I took over Brian Dumpster's position, and they keep promising it's going to be done, but it's never done.
Councilman Corey.
Why can't we make a motion demanding a copy of that to the town of Winthrop? And just put it in the form of a motion, that the town council demands DPH present us a copy of that study.
Okay, so instead of a motion, so let's amend the motion.
Withdraw. Excuse me. I'm happy to withdraw my motion.
What, well, why not just amend it and keep it in?
Nod's as good as a wink to a blind man, it doesn't make a difference to me, whatever you want to do. If you want to withdraw it and add it, you want to add it and withdraw it. I just think that the council should send a letter to whoever has it and say, come on, boys and girls, what's going on?
Okay, the motion's withdrawn. Councilor Bonsory, would you make a new motion?
I make a motion that the Winthrop Town Council take a vote, send a letter demanding a copy of the report from DPH.
Second. Letter demanding a copy from the DPH of the Logan Airport study.
Health study.
Health study, Logan Airport health study. You got that, Denise? Okay. Any discussion?
I'll go with.
I guess the report, maybe also, we might even look, if the, I guess my concern is they might say that the report has not been finalized. And could we look at even the raw data or whatever? So could we look at the actual data that they've collected if they don't have the report?
Why don't we demand the report, and then we can take a step back position that we'll look at the data if they don't have the report.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Councilor Boncory's motion, is there any further discussion? Who seconded that? Sorry, Councilor Lettieri. Tony, did you have some input?
Yeah, one of the excuses they've used was that the funding was stopped, and then they couldn't work on it, and then they'd get it back again, which I think has been a lot of help from Speaker DeLeo, has been transferring some funds. I also heard, and I'm not sure if it's accurate, that Massport was also supposed to be help funding the analysis of the health data. And again, it's two separate things. It's the air pollution data on one side and the health data. I don't know if they're trying to correlate the two.
All right, at this point, let's just demand it and see what they come up with for excuses. All those in favor of Councilor Boncory's motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mr. President, could we on the Airport Hazards Committee get a copy of this?
Oh, yeah.
Once we get it.
Okay. Yeah, once we get it, it should.
You and the Board of Health.
Right. Board of Health will get it. All right.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Councilor Mayall, nighttime parking stickers. Motion to request the town manager to develop a nighttime public parking sticker to allow for a fee for the use of the town's parking lots. This plan should provide fundamental cost maintenance, control, and usage. My suggestion is that we refer that to the DPW committee, which is now already working on the parking lot issues.
It's already been there. In a different form.
All right, we'll go ahead with your motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Boyajin. Discussion.
Refer it to Public Works Committee.
Motion to refer to Public Works. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Sanford. All those in favor say aye. I'm sorry, discussion.
Yeah, I'm not for moving it over there. It's already been there, and I think a public discussion right now is fine on it. I was up at the Highlands parking lot the other day. I've spoken to business person after business person. I spoke to one of the largest property owners up in that area. I find universal acceptance for it. We have these lots that are around town, and they could be generating revenue streams. There are a tremendous amount of them. The council on the Board of Health has talked about the need for looking at some additional staff, and I think that this is an opportune way, along with the senior program that I've come up with tonight, to help to do this. I'm trying to fund I'm actually trying to come up with enough areas of funding so that we can make a healthy run at trying to get a counseling person for the town. I have sat through budget meetings, I've sat through budget meetings, and listen, no one's ever going to accuse me of being the warm fuzzy guy, but when I sit in these meetings and I hear about the issues that we have, when the police chief talks about, the fire chief talks about his issues with hoarding, and the police chief talks about the issues that he's coming up with the drug courts, and I went down to housing and I talked to them, and I went to the COA and talked to them. There's a tremendous amount of need for mental health coverage in this town from all our departments, from the school, from everywhere. And if we took money from the funding here, and if we took money from the senior work release program, and if we took money from the sticker program, we'd be on our way to being able to bring a service to the town that would help everyone, not just the people who need the help, but the people who are victims to this help. We all have a neighbor that has an issue with hoarding, or we have a neighbor that has an issue with drug or alcohol abuse, and we have to address these things. The money I don't see floating around in the general fund, so I'm trying to come up with some alternative sources that would allow us to do this, and I just think that this is a good one.
I agree on a nighttime, on parking stickers, I agree on charges in parking lots, but at this point, I think in January, we referred this to the DPW committee, and the DPW committee, where the money goes, what the alternate sources of funding are, where the money goes, is all very important stuff. But I think if this money goes in one direction, then the money that's, for example, the parking lots, if the money that comes from the parking lot funds is handled as an enterprise fund, then the money that we're spending on the parking lots now can be redirected, rather than just haphazardly say, okay, we'll take this money and put some here, put some there. I think it has to be systematically directed. I agree we need more income. DOR says Winthrop does not have a spending problem. Winthrop has a revenue problem. This addresses the revenue problem. But I think that we need to do it in a more structured manner. Richard?
But isn't that what, that's okay. Isn't that what referring it to the town manager to develop a program like that? Isn't that what Councilor Mail's intending, is to?
Yeah, and I guess technically.
Rather than the DPW where it was before in January, you said, and what came out of that?
Nothing, that's what I'm saying, put it back there.
Wait, but nothing came out of it before. I guess I'd rather put it in the town manager's hand.
Okay, we have a motion right now to refer it to DPW.
Move the question, please.
Question has been moved. All those in favor to refer it to DPW, who can ask Mr. McKenna's input, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm opposed.
How many opposed? 5 to 4. Councilor Mail, a motion to remove $12,500 from the senior work program
Let me
safe
ask
funds.
you, hold on a second. My motion was to request the town manager to develop the plan. Where are we on that motion?
That motion has been referred to DPW.
I thought it just got turned down.
No, it referred to
No,
DPW.
They referred 5-4, we lost.
Referred 5-4, I'm sorry, I thought.
And then
the other way.
with the suggestion that the DPW can involve the town manager or resource. Council Mail has a motion to remove $12,500 from the senior work program. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Council Boyage. Discussion.
This money was voted last year, I thought, without merit, and it has come to my attention, as it had last year, that there are at least some places where the complexity of our operations do not lend themselves to drop-in staff. I also feel that there is no financial requirement for getting this other than your age. I think I'm qualified for the program. There are many people in my age group now that are still working. I think it was properly funded at the first point, and I was taken back by the fact that some of the people I talked to were not completely, they had very, very nice people, but the level of skills required are not able to be just dropped in and picked up. And again, I'm trying to free up some funding so that we can, I think, quite frankly, a counselor at the senior center would be more effective for the general health and welfare of the citizens of the town than a senior work relief that will never hit more than 35 people, 38 people, I forget what the number is. So to me, the benefit of the whole is better than the benefit for a few.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Del Vento.
Did you want to?
Oh,
I
okay.
was just gonna say,
Councilor Belcory.
should this refer to finance to find out if that money's not already been spent with the senior work program? Do we know that it's still in the budget? Have we had seniors that have applied for this already?
Yes.
Is it being used?
We can answer all those
And
questions.
can we take that, I mean, what we shouldn't vote on it without knowing the answers to all those questions.
Mr. McKenna, do you have a specific question?
So I was going to refer to finance to find those questions out and report back to us.
All of those questions can be answered.
Okay. We want to refer to, there's a motion from Councilor Belcory to refer to finance. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Boyage. Any discussion, Councilor?
I will tell you, as the chair of finance, that I expanded this program last year, and I had even thought about expanding it even more this year. The little bit that it costs helps some people. I do agree that maybe we need to start looking at some financial requirements for the program, but I think we can afford a few dollars to help out the seniors that are available.
I just have one point of clarification. Councilor Mail, did you intend for this to be removed from the 2014 budget? Or
No.
to be not included
No.
in the 2015?
To be not included in the 2015.
So therefore,
Oh,
it can go...
we haven't touched that yet.
Pardon me?
We haven't touched that.
That's right. So what really procedurally should happen to this is that the finance committee, when they look at the budget, should take this and what am I saying? Talk about this, discuss this recommendation. So this, Councilor, you are actually referring to fiscal year 15 budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we have a motion to refer to finance
Finance Commission or Finance
committee. Unless you, what was the clarification, committee or commission?
It should probably go to commission.
I think I
go to commission. Working on a budget.
Sounds right. All right, refer to finance commission. That's a council, that was your vote. And you want it as commission specific?
Yes.
Council Boncory has made the motion, and Richard Boyajian, Council Boyajian has seconded it. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Councilor Mail, motion is made to lower the waterway fee for an annual pass from $100 to $60 for the season. Is this also referring to fiscal 15?
This would be for, I would think that this would happen right now. This is the, I don't know if it can, but I would do it for right now.
Mr. President?
Okay. Councilor?
We did this one, but,
This was in the fees, wasn't it?
No.
Counselor, I think we actually made this amendment when we voted the new waterways regulations.
Yes.
That was entered in?
No, the regulation had nothing about fees. It had no amount
Correct.
of fees. It did not.
Correct.
So where does the $100 fee come from?
There's a fee schedule
The fee
that we
schedule
voted
was set
in.
by the town manager.
And then we voted in that whole new fee schedule
Correct.
a few months ago.
It was last year when we voted it in. The fee went in,
It was this fiscal year, though.
it was in the 2014 fiscal year
Right.
that we increased the fee.
Right.
I'm not trying to give people a break, I'm trying to raise money for the town. According,
Go ahead, Counsel.
According to the CFO, our sales of this particular level of sticker have dropped precipitously. I think you showed it going from 80 or something down to 3 or 4 or 5. There is feedback coming from the people at the harbor that most people feel the $100 fee is not worthwhile because you have to drop your boat 20 times or more to make it worthwhile. The value, when it was $50, and I think there were 80 sales at that point, the value of it was that you get the sticker, they know you drop every time you go, you don't have to come over, wait, pay, whatever. The other issue is it cuts down on our need to handle cash, and we have nothing but a cash system there, and I think we leave ourselves open when we do that. So the fee was requested to be dropped by the harbor master staff. They thought it would generate more revenue and be less work.
Any further discussion on the motion? Counsel Vice
I heard it in my previous statement. When we had worked on the new harbor waterways rules, this was discussed, and we did want to bring it down to $60. Rules felt that it should be the 60. Evidently, we missed the mechanism to do it, so there was support for it from the meetings we held on it.
Okay, so we have a motion to reduce the fee from $100 to $60. The motion has been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Tim, I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify, I believe we're referring to the seasonal ramp pass.
Correct. Right.
Yes.
Correct.
Not the waterway fee.
Not the waterway fee, correct. I'm sorry if I made that
Let's
wrong.
clarify that to the lower the
My fault.
annual
Yeah.
waterway, I mean, the annual ramp fee.
Yeah, seasonal ramp.
Seasonal ramp.
Seasonal ramp pass.
My fault, I'd make that, to clarify that.
So if you withdraw your original motion, we'll change it rather than amend it.
I would be happy to
So the-
withdraw my motion.
The motion is made by Counsel Mayo to lower the seasonal ramp fee from $100 to $60 for the season. Any discussion? Is there a second on that new motion? Seconded by Counsel Boyajin. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Yes, the season would include the season, which it now is, not the fiscal year.
So what about the people who already paid?
I don't believe anybody has bought that pass this year, but one person did. I think everybody's turned them down, so, but one person?
Well, as of April 14th, there were 3 people that came in but declined.
Okay, so no one has paid, maybe we can contact those people.
Email them and let them know.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, it's unanimous, thank you. Counsel Mayo, a motion to refer to the appropriate committee, a request to hold a public hearing regarding the subject of rules and regulations for houseboats and non-motorized watercraft in the town of Winthrop, waterways. Pardon me? It says, motion to refer to appropriate committee, a request to hold a public hearing regarding the subject of rules and regulations for houseboats and non-motorized motorcraft in the town of Winthrop waterways. Motion by Council Mayo, seconded by Council Boyajin. Discussion.
What is a non-motorized watercraft? Isn't
That's a
everything
boat
motorized?
that doesn't have a motor, it has to be towed.
Oh, it has to be
it's a barge.
towed. Oh, okay, I thought everything had a motor or something.
No, some of them have to be pulled by the tugboats, that's what tugboats do.
We don't have those. Could utilize it to bring
That's right.
sludge.
So,
So he wants to develop rules, right, but he wants to have a hearing.
he wants to have a public hearing. Well, let me let him explain. Council Mayo.
So, we have a situation that has manifested itself over the last 6 or 9 months, where thanks to the Attorney General and the DEP, we have got a series of new craft that have come into the town. Some of these craft are currently operating as unlicensed bed and breakfasts, okay? Some of them have had issues with their general cleanliness and healthiness of both the water and themselves. And some of these pose unique issues, and they have enlightened us to the fact that there is a unique issue, because if there is a storm, they cannot get off the dock because they're not motorized vehicles. We also have a situation where if someone calls us from, let's say, a particular location, and we go to that location, and we find out they're living on the houseboat, we don't know how to help them. They could call for a heart attack, they could call for a medical issue. We don't have an address. If somebody is living on a houseboat in town and happens to bring 2 children into town, and those 2 children happen to, let's say, go to Essex Aggie for school, that's a non-tax-paying residence. How do we want to handle these things? I don't have any complete ideas. I just think it's time that the town has a set of hearings to define if we want to look at if we want to look at houseboats, do we want to look at bed and breakfast on the water, how are we going to handle it? And I think we're wide open in this, and it's caused a bit of an issue, even for things like waste and trash removal. It's $175 to move into town and leave your boat. I think that's what the waterway fee is for the year. And quite frankly, there are many homeowners that pay a considerable bit more in taxes to live in the town. And we have to decide if that's what the town wants to do, that's fine, but I think we should have a discussion on it.
I don't know what the appropriate committee would be unless it's rules and ordinances gets everything else. Councilor
Just to date, I know that we have had some problem with these houseboat situations. I know the Conservation Commission has been dealing with them. I know I believe the Board of Health went down there, and I believe they did get a citation for dumping into the harbor already, and it's been being followed by our town officials, whether it's being the Inspection Service Department or it's been the Board of Health. We have been following over on it, as well as the Conservation Commission. My feeling is that if we're going to make zoning regulations about the issues of the waterway, it should go to the planning board, because that's where that type of thing starts.
You're right.
In zoning, are we zoning our waterfront for houseboats? And if we are, they usually do set those regulations before it comes to us for final approval.
You're right. Yeah, and I know that as far as the bed and breakfast are concerned, that there is some stuff underway with that, but a new commissioner has been down there working with that. Councilor Boyer?
No, I think that's a good idea to go to the planning board, but I guess I don't know that there's the expertise on the planning board either, though, to look at this issue in a comprehensive manner. I may be wrong. There may be people with maritime experience or that know those issues, or other people that we can work with at the state level that have better knowledge on that could advise us on that in those ways about.
It probably makes sense at this point to send it to the planning board and have them determine who they need to pick up for expertise. So if I could have a motion to do so?
I just had one question before you do that. Again, I don't understand this totally either, but what you said tonight was that the only fee that they pay is $175 waterway, and their boats are there all year long. Whereas anyone that's going in and out of the yacht clubs, putting their boats in, paying marina fees, and paying a substantial amount of money every year to put their boat in for a very short season.
But just to clarify a little bit, those people pay the yacht club dues as well as the waterway fee. These people pay their money to the marina, so they're not getting off free. It's still costing them money. The issue is that they are, if they're residents, there should be a way to have them participate in the funding of the community.
They don't have to pay like per foot of the vessel?
To the marina.
To the marina.
Not to the town.
To the marina.
Right.
They pay rent to the marina.
They pay rent to the marina.
They pay rent to the marina.
One at a time.
Yeah. Just to clarify, there is also an excise tax on the vessel.
Right.
I'm not sure on non-motorized vessels, if there is an excise tax on, it, which is minimal, set by an archaic state guideline. I mean, when I had my boat, it was $28 a year, or $32 a year for the excise tax. But I think the planning board needs to the planning board, because you have things like on-street parking, trash disposal.
Do they pay for water and electricity?
All that is, a lot of those situations are gonna be dealt with by the property owner.
I have a motion by Councilor Lettieri to refer to the planning board. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Councilor Sanford. Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Just a note that our public hearing on the fiscal year 15 budget is scheduled for our next regular meeting on May 20th. The meeting following that on June, I believe it's June 3rd, is when we will vote the budget. Moving on to, I've appointed Tom Riley as a designee to the MWRA. The MWRA has designated community, whether it's the mayor or the council president or whoever, it's the chief executive officer to serve on the MWRA or his designee.
Advisory board.
Advisory board, exactly. I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. On the advisory board. Given Tom Riley's background expertise, Tom Riley was on the MWRA when they first opened. He was on the citizens group before they opened. So given his expertise and his willingness to assume the responsibility, I'm going to appoint Tom.
That's his title.
And then on, at the last minute, I had received the information from Rick Boyage, and it got somewhere waylaid that he would like to be on to the Winter Air Pollution, Noise, and Airport Hazards Committee, and I would like to make that appointment, and I would like to have a vote of affirmation for that.
Unfortunately, as a liaison to that committee, is that correct?
He wants to be a member.
No, be a member. I don't know that our bylaws allow us to be members of committees.
Well,
as councilors.
I couldn't find anything that said they couldn't be. Do you know of anything that says they can't be?
They can't. I think it's the liaison, but I don't think we can serve on the committee.
Yeah, let's take a look at the charter.
Take it on, okay.
I can wait a few weeks.
All right, so we'll hold till the next meeting.
Take a look at the charter on that.
Yeah, I couldn't find
I don't want to
anything.
violate any rules.
No, I couldn't find anything that said no, but we'll double check it. Okay, and just a couple of reminders, the Police Explorers fundraiser is this weekend, May 9th, at the Cottage Park Yacht Club?
Friday.
Right, Friday, May 9th. It's not May 10th, something else. Oh, that's the MWA.
And there are still tickets available.
Yes, there are.
You're gonna have to get your money in, I
Can
can
you
try
tell us
tomorrow.
what's the source to get the tickets?
Yes, it's right here. It's the Winthrop Police Explorers fundraiser, okay, and it is at the Cottage Park Yacht Club. It's Friday, May 9th.
Right.
It's $20 a ticket. It's gonna be entertainment, the dueling pianos, and I would say you could drop a check off at the Winthrop Police Department.
police station,
It's
okay.
$20 a ticket, but I have tickets here for some of us.
Rogers, I'm sorry.
Sergeant Rogers, yeah, Sergeant Rogers is in charge, you're right.
Yeah, or Frank
Okay.
Scarpa, or whoever's there, they'll take the checks.
Okay, and just a couple of one other thing, next, I just got a note from, hold on one second, please. One conversation.
Tony?
Thank you. A week from Saturday, May 17th, is Richie Honen's annual fixing the bronze grave markers at the cemetery for the veterans. So anybody that's interested in participating in that, he starts at 8 o'clock on this morning of May 17th. Yep. And is there any public comment? Was that Graham?
John McCagle, Precinct 5. Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to commend the town for the terrific success of its newly accelerated recycling program, which has been, I think, attributable to at least a couple of things. One is the person of the town through waste management that Diane Ken process of these terrific new large barrels with the yellow tops and so forth. It's been so good, the town has actually gotten me to start recycling, which is a very difficult thing to do. I'm basically the laziest person in town when it comes to recycling, so it's been quite successful. But I really also want to specifically commend Councilor Keller because it was her leadership a couple of years ago in getting the town to go to the single-stream recycling program that was the basis and the foundation of the success that we have right now. So I know what...
Thank you. I'm working on that with Jeannie Maggio. so-
I gotta say, I like those barrels too, because I only put mine out every 2 weeks.
So, okay, but that was all. Oh, by the way, but maybe if the town could gather the data, which must show a terrific increase, or a significant increase.
Yeah, Waste Management will be producing
Right,
that.
and put that out in the form of a press release, because it's just a way for the town to pat itself on the back and well deserved.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Yes,
I'll
Councilman.
step back in time, which I don't normally do, but we can't think about recycling without thinking about Simon Fifth.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Started recycling
Yeah.
247,000 years ago, before it was fashionable, so whatever work you did all came from him. I just have one comment. About a month ago, I made a comment in public session about my thought that over many years of leadership in the town, having a governor and a Senate president and a Speaker of the House, that I wasn't sure Winthrop had benefited from that. And that was my opinion, and I thought about it very carefully before I stated it, and it was stated because I'd become very, very frustrated at the direction of the casino negotiations. 2 days later, as was their absolute right and responsibility, the transcript published an editorial stating that two councilors made comments against it. I think that was a complete abdication of your duty to responsible journalism. If you can't mention our names in the paper, then please don't write about it. You were absolutely able to allow other people to write in and use our names. I made the statement. I thought about it a long time. I realized what I said. I realized what the individuals had done for the town. But there are seminal issues that come about every 20 or 30 years. And the casino is one of them. And I do not know that I can honestly take back my feelings. But I do ask the transcript. If you are for the casino, then state it. I can understand it. I am not going to be an advertiser in your paper. I do not own a business. I am not running for businesses. I can understand why you may want to support them. That's your responsibility. But if someone is willing to put their neck out on the line and say they're not, I ask you to print my name the next time.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Motion by Councilor Corey to adjourn. Is there a second by Councilor Vice President Del Vento? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. You're going to Little League. Very well done.